Sometimes the hardest part about writing fiction is coming up with good ideas. New, unique, and intriguing ideas are difficult to craft, and it can be easier to just tell a familiar story in a recognizable setting and just try to tell that story very well. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. Some really good media has been made with relatively few concepts added to the genre, especially in procedurals and mystery. But as great as execution can be, it's still really nice to have amazing ideas. On the other hand, amazing, fantastic ideas aren't a guarantee for success either. Without that execution, even the most interesting ideas can be wasted, be it through narrative incompetence or grossly simplistic morality. Maybe your most interesting lead character is sidelined for their safer, blander co-star. Maybe you're less interested in exploring your amazing world than you are in making easy jokes. Maybe the realistic pathos driving your character doesn't seem as important as their style. For whatever reason, a lot of really creative people fail to have their great ideas reach their full potential, and nobody better encapsulates this phenomenon, in my opinion, than Masashi Kishimoto. The creator of Naruto is a fountain of creativity. He's designed hundreds of unique and discernible characters, and as of Samurai 8, he's still going. He's created two incredibly detailed and complex universes, and almost every character with a bit of panel time has something interesting about them. He's diligent, original, talented, and prolific. But man, if he doesn't drop the ball. So often. Regularly, his fantastic ideas end up pointless, forgotten, or offensively bad. A woman that was abused as a girl manages to make a life for herself out of tracking down other predators. She's rendered unconscious for the hero to use her body to reincarnate her abuser. A man was abused as a boy, and he dedicates himself to protecting other children. His body is used to strengthen an army that was made to fight children. An ethnic group faces discrimination and suspicion for generations and decides to plan a coup. Well, it's actually because of an inherited evil gene that they don't like being treated like garbage. Over and over again, characters with unbelievable potential are introduced and either turned into jokes, made into stereotypes, forgotten, or used in distasteful ways. Any one of these characters would make for a good video, and someday they may, but for today, I want to talk about the dropping of the ball on a character and his plotline that I consider to be the worst. In my opinion, there is no clearer switch between a great idea and indefensible writing than that which is seen with Neji Hyūga. Throughout the Chunin exams arc, we get little glimpses of Neji and Hinata, two Hyūga cousins. The framing makes it pretty clear how we're supposed to feel about these characters. Hinata is shy, gentle, kind, and friendly, and Neji is abrupt, curt, cocky, and angry. Given that we know nothing of the backgrounds of these characters, even though none of these characteristics are inherently good or bad, we're meant to sympathize with and appreciate Hinata, and be suspicious of and dislike Neji. This is how we are normally supposed to react to these types of characters, and I think Kishimoto knew that. We are meant to assume that Neji is a bully and Hinata is the victim. Then, when the two of them are paired up to fight each other, Neji asks Hinata to forfeit. After she refuses, he mercilessly beats her within an inch of her life and calls her a failure. When she is near the end, Neji once again tells her to forfeit, not wanting to kill her, saying that she is the one who had to bear the burden of being born into the main house of the Hyūga family. To the audience, both again in the universe and the viewers outside of the universe, we don't know what this means, but Hinata retorts that Neji is the one that really can't handle the family pressure. Again, at the time we're in the dark as to what this actually means, but Neji reacts by moving in to kill Hinata. 4 Jonin stop his attack, saving Hinata and bringing her medical attention. Like Naruto, the viewer or reader is supposed to be mad at Neji for being so ruthless. What makes him think it's okay to brutalize Hinata like this? Well, a little later in the story, it's time for Naruto to fight Neji, and during the fight, Neji reveals why he is the way he is, and what the family houses of the Hyūga mean. One house of the Hyūga is the main house, wealthy, influential, genteel individuals with privilege and power. The other house is the branch house, composed of slaves raised from childhood to protect and serve members of the main house. Hinata and her father are from the main house. Neji and his father are from the branch house. Neji's father, Hisashi, was born seconds after his brother, Hiyashi, but was thus destined to a lifetime of servitude. He was branded with a cursed seal that, when activated by a member of the main house, caused enough brain damage to potentially kill the target. Hisashi's son was also inflicted with this curse at the age of 4 and was forced to be Hinata's slave. Hisashi's resentment, not action against but mere resentment towards Hinata, was enough for Hiyashi to activate the curse mark on his brother, and this curse mark was also activated on Neji in his lifetime. And later in Neji's life, His father was killed by the main house. Thus, unable to truly be free, Neji resolves himself to his lifetime of slavery, hoping for the sweet embrace of death. See, his all-out attack on Hinata wasn't cruelty. It was an attempt to garner one of two possible outcomes. One, to free himself of this girl's ownership of him, or two, anger his uncle enough to bring about his own death. This was a masterclass in writing. To take a character that seems to be a bully and reveal them to actually be a victim of slavery, body modification, physical abuse, and mental torture makes the battle between Neji and Hinata make perfect sense. Hinata taunts Neji's inability to take comfort in his destiny of slavery, and his response is to finally take matters into his own hands, and good for him. It also illuminates why 4 Jonin stop Neji from killing Hinata, as she is a wealthy heiress, while only 1 Jonin stops Gaara from killing Lee, who is a poor nobody. Everything in Konoha works against Neji, and his attitude against Hinata, save at the final moment when he goes for the kill, after she angers him, is one of complete acceptance with his fate. Sorrow, rage, but acceptance, and it's hard not to understand his wrath. And then, everything was ruined. Naruto defeats Neji, which is expected, but following his loss, Neji is visited by his uncle, who reveals that Hisashi was not killed on his orders, but rather committed suicide in an act to save Hisashi, finally choosing his own fate for once. This would work if this was meant to be another show of the main house's depravity, but instead, it is enough to alleviate Neji's sorrow and turn him into a happy slave. After all, is it actually slavery if you can choose whether you're happy or sad, or living or dead? It is, by the way, obviously. For the rest of the series, Neji's appearances can be summarized as protecting Hinata, fighting, or dying for Hinata, with a smile on his face. Everything was in place for Neji to be the most interesting, sorrowful, and likable character in Naruto, but Kishimoto instead turned him into a cheerful serf, happy to throw his life away for his oppressor, just as fate intended. This isn't to say that you can't have unjust fates inside of fiction, far from it. However, to portray that unjust death as the natural righteous order of the universe leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Hinata, of course, never bothers herself with the fact that she owns a slave, or that she taunted her slave about his father's death, or her role in her house's continued slavering after Neji's death, and no characters aside from Neji call her out on this. It's too bad, honestly, because there could have been a good way to tell a very similar story. Have Neji accept Naruto's lesson about fate being flexible, but instead of choosing to be a happy slave, he chooses to distance himself as far away from Hinata and Hisashi, his abusers, as much as possible. Work with Guy, Lee, and Tenten, his actual family, to find a way to sever his connection, or at least provide him a place to stay. Or, if Kishimoto wanted Hinata to actually be a decent human being, have the two of them work together to dismantle the Hyūga clan's oppressive system. But no. Instead, Neji gets to choose his own fate, just like his father, which is actually exactly his father's choice. Death to save his master. No other writing decision, in my opinion, again, shows that the absolute schism exists between an author's ability and an author's potential. As a writer myself, I take Naruto, a series that I no longer find genuine enjoyment in, as a lesson. All the creativity in the world can be for naught if the humanity of the work is compromised. For the stories unfulfilled, the potential wasted, and the atrocities excused, we owe it to our audiences, our inspirations, and ourselves to not only edit grammar and prose, but plot and development as well, to re-examine if our heroes are truly heroic, and if our endings are just, and if our tales are complete. Thanks for listening.